Okay.
All right, so we are live. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, Dorud, salam, shalom.
Mike.
Good evening and welcome to the inspiring, cool conversations that we have with best-selling authors Alima. Welcome. Alima, are you with us?
Yes. Yeah.
I
Can you hear me?
I said namaste, greetings, and welcome to the inspiring, cool convos that we have with best-selling authors.
Thank you. Namaste as well, Jerry.
Namaste. I said a whole lot of salutations to you. I think you were adjusting your mic. Are you all set now?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. But are you all set?
Yes.
You seem to be a little distracted.
Yes. Yes. I was earlier on. Yes.
Do you want to take a deep breath and relax?
Yes, I will. Yes. Okay.
Do you want to take a deep breath and relax? Have a swig of water. And it is a pleasure to have you on the Author Experience Conversations, what we call as our experience, inspiring, cool conversations with best-selling authors. And as you know, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m., we invite authors from around the world who have written books which are in the genres of self-help and personal development. That's the first genre that we focus on. The second genre that we focus on is autobiographies, authors like you who've written their autobiographies or have their stories written by other biographers or authors like me, because I tell stories of real heroes in my Karma Kari book series. So I look forward to learn from your biography and get some great life, leadership, and learning to learn lessons for the self and for all our audience who's participating and joining us on Facebook Live. A very warm namaste and welcome to all our audience. My name is Jerry Almeida and I'm your host for the evening. And we look forward to some great life, leadership, and learning to learn lessons from Alima. So those are the first two genres that we focus on: self-help, autobiographies, real stories of true stories of real heroes. And the third genre is socio-political issues, social crusades, exposes, anything which is in the space of righting wrongs for the people of the world. So those are the three genres that we focus on, and we invite authors from around the world. And we are very happy to have you with us, Alima.
Thank you very much. Namaste to everybody in India and across the world. And good afternoon from Bournemouth in England. Right. My name is Alima Jalloh-North. I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone, which is West Africa.
And before we go in there, Alima, because I'm going to give you exclusive screen time to tell us your story. Just want to know, how long have you been in the UK?
It'll be 39 years on the 26th of this month.
26th of this month. So it's the right month that we've got you with.
Yeah, I've been here nearly my whole life.
29 years, and then you complete
39
years. So you will complete 4 decades next year, which is 40 years. And where are your roots? Where are your roots originally?
I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone. That's in West Africa. It's a very tiny country.
I know of Sierra Leone. It's a place which has a lot of conflict, has a lot of violence, and it has a lot of history also.
Yes, it did. Yes, the conflicts are more history now. We have it's got a lot of natural resource: diamond, iron ore. We've got gold. It's a very, very blessed country. A lot of natural resources. And it's a beautiful country. We have one of the best beaches in the world.
I know, and I must say that most places in Africa are very blessed, and they are full of natural resources, and that is one of the reasons that they have mostly been exploited by politicians, by business people, and people with hidden agendas from around the world, especially the whites. I have a couple of interesting videos which I will speak to you about later, which are also by fellow authors and creative artists who've spoken about how people have exploited Africa for so long and yet call Africa a poor continent, or countries in Africa poor countries. And I'm sure we learn a lot about that from you, because you have a lot of insights, being a daughter of the soil from the Sierra Leone, from Africa. I'm sure that we will learn a lot from you. So Alima, to start with, I would like you to walk the audience, all the people who are participating on Facebook Live and me, through your entire life story, because you've seen huge struggle, huge pain in your life, and yet you refuse to break down, and you've kind of persevered with your resilience to break through, and you continue breaking through, and are an inspiration for many. So we look forward to listening to your story, and I'm sure that the audience who's joined in, all the young men, young women, boys, girls, and people of my age, I just turned 50 last year, we will all gain from your story, because you have a very powerful, compelling story. And I hope you're completely relaxed, because the next 10 to 15 minutes is completely exclusive screen time for Alima, so that you can inspire us with your story and give us insights about how we can break through without ever breaking down in our lives. So over to you, Alima.
Okay. As I said earlier on, my name is Alima Jalloh-North, and I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone. It's a very tiny country. I think it's about 5 to 6 million population, and it's in the west coast of Africa. I have my mom divorced at a very young age. I think I was about 12 to 16 weeks old when my parents got divorced, and my mom had to move back with my grandmother, who became a main carer in my brother and I and our lives. And we were very, very poor. We didn't have any money. And my grandmother lived in one bedroom in the east end of Freetown. And we lived next to a latrine. The one bedroom my grandmother was living was next to a latrine. And we didn't have any wardrobes. We didn't have any bed. We had one single bed where my grandmother laid, and my mom and myself, my brother, we laid on the floor. And as a young child, I've always been an extrovert. And because I grew up in a part of town where things were kind of rough, and I knew as a child, I didn't want that life. I knew that when I grew up, I wanted something different. And also, we are the first generation of my family to be educated. So my mom went and did business around Sierra Leone and left us with my grandmother, who took my brother and I to school each day and cared for us. She never went to school. My mom never went to school at all her generation before that. So at the age of 9, my brother had lived with my dad for a year, about 18 months. So I wanted to join my brother because I missed him so much. So I moved to Moyamba, the southern area of Sierra Leone. And I was so excited to live with my dad, and everything was fine. And then a couple of months later, my stepmother arrived in Moyamba, and that was when my life changed. The relationship with my dad changed. And unfortunately, what I'm going to discuss in the next minute or two will be quite graphic, but I'll try and tone it down a little bit for my audience. So as soon as my mom arrived, my stepmother arrived, she started beating my brother and I up. We were beaten all the time, daily. My brother and I will go to school with bruises in our face. My dad started beating us up as well. I'm really sorry, audience. I know this is a very sensitive issue. As I said earlier, it is a sensitive issue. My dad will run a bath and drown my brother and I into it, and will pull us out with our wet clothes and will beat us really serious flogging. He will take his belt off his trousers and really, really flogged us. And that went on for several years, and we were starved. We had to go and beg food from the neighbor, and we just couldn't tell anybody about it. The neighbors knew what was happening, and I told my grandmother about it, and she wanted me to go back to Freetown and live with her. She wanted both of us to go back to Freetown, but because I've never known my dad from a babe, I just was yearning for so much love from my dad. I just wanted to be recognized. I just wanted to be daddy's girl. So anyway, I finally moved away from my dad, went back to Freetown and lived with my grandmother. And then a year or two later, I came to England on holiday for 6 weeks. And then my mom decided that I was going to stay in Bournemouth. So I went to boarding school. And I really didn't appreciate being in boarding school. I'd come from a different culture in West Africa to come and live in England. I wasn't used to all the different type of food, and I didn't have much confidence with the whole language thing. Even though English is our first language in Sierra Leone, I still didn't have much confidence, and I experienced a lot of racism in Bournemouth. And the buses wouldn't stop for me. If I was at the bus stop, I was the only one standing at the bus stop in Bournemouth. Nobody would stop for me. And I could go for weeks and weeks. I don't see anybody colored or black or brown. And it was very, very, the 80s in Bournemouth was very, very challenging for me as a young girl, and my brother as well. And I just couldn't understand. I thought I sort of resented my mom a bit because she didn't actually prepare me for this new world that she's brought me into. And obviously we've already been scarred, my brother and I, from all the abuse we had as a child. And that was just buried away at the back of the wardrobe, never been discussed, nothing. And so I carried on, finished school in Bournemouth. I went to Bournemouth College. I studied secretarial, and I worked for 6 months in an office, which I didn't really enjoy. And then I joined an agency and started doing different odd jobs here and there. And then I went to the hospital in one of our local hospitals where I was told I was vacant. And hence, that's what happened. I got married, obviously. I got married, and my marriage lasted for about eight years. And I have two amazing children. My son, I've got a son and a daughter. And then after my divorce, which obviously wasn't very nice, that took me to a very dark place. And I was signed off sick. I had to grieve for months and months and months. And then a year later, I found out that my son has got autism, and that really threw me back. It was very, very hard and challenging. And obviously, as a single mom, I had to work to support my two children. And it was very, very difficult because I have to wake up at 5 a.m, get my two babies ready, because my daughter was 18 months and my son was 3 years old at the time. And obviously, because I've always had a mortgage, I felt I had the need to work to pay my mortgage. But I had a very kind lady who was prepared to look after my children that time of the morning, so I could be at work for 7 o'clock shift. I only did day shift. And it was really, really, they were very, very tough times. The most thing that really helped me after I got divorced is all my married friends didn't want to be friends with me anymore because I was single. And that, I just couldn't understand that. That was a big shock. People that knew me before I was married and after I was married. And I just couldn't believe the prejudice there was about single moms and all that. You don't sort of realize it until you actually your married breakup, then you realize your true friends. And so I struggle with my son and daughter, and struggle with life as a whole, because so many things have happened in my life that I've never talked about. And I did a charity for my local hospitals in Bournemouth. I did a walk, I did a 5-mile walk, and I had 42 minutes on that. And I was very, very proud of myself. And then the August of 2017, I went for a routine surgery, which ended up being very, very complex, and has left me with severe chronic pelvis abdominal pain. And my pain is really, really difficult. I live with pain every day. And I'm just so grateful for my life, because of my attitude I've had throughout my childhood. I've never allowed things to get to me. I've always been a positive thinker, and I just I just always think positive, and my words, the way I talk, my life, the way I live my life. And I'm not saying I don't have challenges. I have challenges, but I deal with them differently to the average person, because at the end of the day, life is what it is. There will always be challenges in our lives. And that's how I've always lived my life, with gratitude. I'm so grateful. I'm blessed for my beautiful, handsome son and daughter, and my son being academically bright, and my daughter, my son who is autistic, went to mainstream school, and he got a lot of help with the primary school. All the foundation were laid there. I worked with the school, and I did a lot of workshops with the autistic society. And I'm so grateful for those people. Because of them, this is the reason why my son is where he is today. So he did well. Both my children went to they both finished secondary school, and they both went to university. My son went to Coventry, and my daughter went to Brighton. My son had a lot of struggle at university, but I was able to support him because I was traveling back and forth to Coventry and back. And my daughter also, she was doing well as well in school, and they both did very well. And my son had an opportunity to go to California because he's a very, very gifted animator. He draws. He's been doing cartoons since he was about 2.5 years old. He's really a brilliant animator. He had the chance to go and live in California, and I'm really, really proud of what he's achieved. I'm also very, very proud of my daughter, but I'm even more proud because I never, ever imagined my son will ever leave home. I never, ever imagined, with all the challenges he still has a lot of challenges, obviously, with the spectrum. And I'm just so grateful to God for what he's done for me. My faith has kept me going a lot, and I just thank God I'm not where I used to be. But I'm just so thankful that I never allowed all the bad things that have happened in my life to just to make me give up. I've just always thrived. I'm a very positive person. I love people. I love authentic friendships. You know, I don't have a lot of friends, but the few people I have in my life, I'm loyal to, and I'm very good at keeping in touch. Not so much with the phone calls, but I do send regular text messages to my friends and all that, and check out they're doing. And I'm just really grateful for my life. And as I said, you know, I'm just grateful to God most of all for everything He's done in my life. And as you know, I've been in Bournemouth for nearly 40 years. And so this is what happened. So because of my pain, I was in a very, very dark place. I started experiencing anxiety because of the surgery, because I was in and out of hospital all the time. And my pain is the equivalent of going into labor and without being pregnant and having a baby. I know these are sensitive issues, but obviously this is what I experience every day. I experience pain every day, 24 hours a day, just different levels. And so one morning, I went up the road and I met a lady, and she said to me there was an event in London. So the event was IMN, Intelligent Millionaire Network. And she took me to this event, and I came back and I felt my mind was kind of transformed in a way. So a few months later, I woke up one morning and just started writing my book. And I've never looked back. I just wrote my book within 7 days. And I felt the anointing of God in my life.
Alima, will get into your book a little later, but you know, I just want to ask you, how old are your son and daughter now?
Yeah, my son, he is 24, and my daughter is 22.
And what are their names?
Hamza. My son is Hamza, AMZA.
Okay.
And my daughter is Safi, SAFFI.
SAFFI. And they both know all that you've gone through in your childhood, including the violence which you had to face from your father.
They only found out after I wrote the book.
Okay.
It was because of it. It's a very graphic.
So
I can't even talk about it on because it's really, some of it I could never discuss. you
Right.
know.
No, the reason I'm asking you is because did you deliberately insulate and protect them from it, or is it that you saved it to tell them through your book?
I just, I wasn't sure how they were going to deal with it if I
Right,
told them in person,
right,
because
right,
obviously my children were born in England. I
right.
wasn't sure how to tell them something that sad, because it is sad, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
obviously
It
being
is. It
their
is.
mom, they're going to feel for me. And I didn't want to put them through that.
Right.
Obviously, when I wrote my book, they were very, very shocked. They said, my
And
God,
and
mom,
and
you just,
and I completely appreciate, because you've seen the violence, in the first person. You
mm,
dealt with it directly. You've seen a life of
mm,
poverty in your younger
yes,
days, and I can
yes.
relate with it because after my father died when I was 8 years old, my mother
Oh,
and I were also forced into a life of penury because we got cheated out, etc. Anyway, that's my life story, and it's not important. But the reason I'm asking, and the insight I want to share with all our people who have participated and are watching us on
mhm,
Facebook Live is that,
mhm.
as parents, we mostly try to insulate our children from the big bad world, as I call it, right? Because the
Yes.
world is not such a nice place anymore. It's a very
Mm-mm.
unsafe place. It's a very
Yes.
dangerous place because
Mhm.
human greed has
Yes.
grown over the years and
Yes.
decades and centuries. And
Yeah.
Africa is a living example of that, of how Africa
Mhm.
and several countries in Africa have been exploited. And I've had
Mhm.
the privilege and honor of meeting a lot of
Mhm.
friends like you from Africa, and I have huge respect for all of you, because I think if one needs to learn resilience, it is from all of you. A
Mhm.
few weeks ago, I had William Kamkwamba on the same conversation. And
Okay.
William Kamkwamba is the boy on whom a movie has been made by Netflix, The Boy Who Harnessed the
Oh,
Wind.
okay, I've heard of it.
And
Yeah.
he's from a country called Malawi.
Oh,
And in
okay.
Malawi, they don't have windmills. And this boy who was thrown out of school at the age of 14, you will be able to relate with this because you also
Wow.
faced a lot of violence as a teenager. And he was expelled from school at the age of 14 because his uh, parents, who were poor farmers, could not pay his fees. So, I keep hearing interesting stories of Africa, and I've traveled a few countries in Africa, and I've seen
Mhm.
countries in Africa where I cannot even step out of my hotel without the
Mhm.
bodyguards given to me, because chances of me getting kidnapped and killed are very high. And we will go deeper into Africa a little later. But the insight I wanted to
Mhm.
share with the parents is, while we try to
Mhm.
insulate and protect our children and teach them
Mhm.
about living a life well and having a positive life and a positive lifestyle and a
Mhm.
well-to-do, luxurious, comfortable life, it is very important to also prepare them for adversity, because in life, in the journey of life, pain and
Mhm.
suffering is a equal
Mhm.
part of every human being's life. Nobody can
Yeah.
escape the struggle, the suffering, the pain. And
No.
if you're not
True.
prepared to withstand that suffering, that
Mhm.
pain, that struggle,
Mhm.
then that
Mhm.
can break you down. And that's why, I've
Yes.
written a book called Karma Kari Karishma, The Miracle, where I tell stories of human miracles like you, who
Mhm.
have not broken down. They refuse to break down and have broken through. And they're all stories of resilience,
Mhm.
which teach you life, leadership, and
Mhm.
learning to learn lessons and the
Mhm.
science of resilience. So,
Yeah.
I always tell this to parents and corporate executives that I work with. Don't just prepare
Mhm.
your children for a life of luxury and comfort.
No.
Prepare them for adversity, because that is a
Yes.
very,
Yeah.
very inherent part of life, and no one can escape
Yes.
that, right? And the
Mhm.
premise of my book, Karishma, the miracle, the
Mhm.
miracle within, is that, in life, all of us
Mhm.
will be broken at some point in many. But when we break, do
Yes.
we
Mhm.
give up and break down, or do we persevere and
Mhm.
break through,
Mhm.
like Alima
Yeah.
Jalloh-North? So, Alima,
Thank
I want to
you.
show you a short video and then get some
Okay.
insight about
Okay.
Africa and the progress that Africa could have made if not for the exploitation. And this is a video which is, somebody I hold very dear to my heart. Her name is Ama Ata Aidu. She
Mhm.
has been a politician. She is a writer. She is
Mhm.
a artist, and,
Mhm.
and and she does a lot of work in the social space. She's now around 79 years old. And I'm just going to play the video for you and for everybody in the audience to understand that Africa is not a poor continent, nor are countries in Africa poor, but they have been impoverished. The people have been marginalized and exploited over years. I'm going to show this video, and then Alima will have some insights from you. Let's watch the video.
Years ago. The thing is that, as far as I'm concerned, since we met you people 500 years ago, look at us. We've given everything. You are still taking. It's true. I mean, where will the whole Western world be without Africa? Our cocoa, our timber, our gold, our diamonds, our platinum, our whatever. Everything you are is us. I am not saying it, it's a fact. And in return for all of this, what have we got? Nothing. Anti-personnel indoctrination against ourselves. If you go and cook your horrible diseases like AIDS, you say it is us. You brought us tuberculosis. We didn't have this big cough until white people came here. In exchange for Africa giving Europe 500 solid years of our people, I mean not Europe, the Western world, of our human beings to work your canes, to dig your gold, to taking gold itself, diamond, I mean, you know, fish, peanuts, palm oil, everything. In exchange for that, we have got nothing. Nothing. And you know it. Nothing. And you look upon, you know, white folks look upon us like monkeys. It is true. It's in your literature. Hey, you know, some of your best thinkers have said this about us. Have you heard of all these Germans? Have you heard? Okay. Yes. They said Lord Burton, people like that, they said we have the brain of animals. No. That's what we've got from you people.
But don't you think that this is over now?
Over where? Is it over? Who said that AIDS came from the green monkey? Is it over? Is it over?
Well, if this is your impression, do you think that you can ever forgive us?
It's not a question of forgiveness. I have nothing against you. My point is that you did and you are doing for your survival what is necessary. We can't blame you for that. The fact that we didn't do enough for our own survival and we are still not doing enough for our survival, that is not your problem. You know, even everybody that God has created has a sense of survival, you know, and if we don't develop it, we can't blame white people. You came here because you needed these things. You took gunpowder from the Chinese. You needed them to shoot people.
So that was Ama Ata Aidu.
Wow.
And very, very powerful leader, artist, speaker, author. That was shot in 1987.
Yeah, I saw the time.
1987, 97, 2007, 2017, 35 years later. People, especially children and women, are still being exploited in several countries in Africa because of blood diamonds or conflict diamonds. There have been movies made on this, and yet, after all that awareness, that conflict and that exploitation has not stopped. As we speak, there are several people, there are several women and children, especially in Africa, who are exploited in the mines where minerals are being mined, the same minerals which are used in smartphones because of conspicuous consumption of smartphones. So you've seen that video by Ama Ata Aidu. What do you have to say, Alima? Alima, you were one of the fortunate ones who moved to UK 40 years ago, but almost 40 years ago. But there's so many people who live in Africa in abject poverty. Like I spoke to you, when I go to Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, I always say you're either in the hotel or you're outside the hotel, because it's just stark poverty. And I can empathize with it, with what Amma was saying, because India, like Africa, has also been exploited over the years by the white men, by people from Europe, by people who have exploited us for our rich resources. So, Alima, what are your thoughts and insights on this?
It really saddens me every time I see or read articles like this, because it is true. Everything that she said is true. And unfortunately, the exploiting is still going on, isn't it? It doesn't stop. It's been going on for thousands of years, more than 500 years, obviously, with slavery and everything, and how people in the Western world.
And I'm sure you have witnessed some of that in the first person in Sierra Leone when you were younger, people being exploited.
Oh, yes. I mean, I was lucky that I was blessed in a way, because my grandmother looked after us, but other people are not so fortunate. Yes, I mean, I wasn't used as a slave or anything, even though I did housework for my mom, dad and my stepmother. But there were other kids that were unfortunate. Some were brought abroad. Tourists would go to Sierra Leone, and people would give their children to complete strangers, and just say, oh, take my child to England, or take my child to Scotland, back home, how people are. They just want their children to go abroad across the waters. They don't think beyond that. Obviously, because of poverty, and people not being educated, they don't understand that what they're doing is not good, to actually give their child to a complete stranger. But unfortunately, this still goes on now, doesn't it? It is what it is. Exploitation I think it will never end.
Absolutely.
I don't think, not in my lifetime anyway, I don't think it will ever end.
But do you think there are any insights that you have about how things could be improved for Africa as a continent, the several countries in Africa where the people are suffering? What do you think are the solutions for this? Any insights?
Well, my number one, I think, is to do with the cocoa with chocolate. In Western Europe, in Europe as a whole, people have sweet tooth and everybody eats chocolate. I think instead of because there was an article I saw, was a few weeks ago, where people from the countries that produce cocoa, I think one of them was, I think it was Ghana and a couple of other, I think Ivory Coast.
Right. Ghana is a place which is popular for cocoa, yeah.
Cocoa, and then I think it was Ivory Coast or one of the countries next door to Ghana, and they were producing, they were their cocoa was imported, but even though it's a multi-billion-dollar business in the West, in Europe, and they were only getting so many million, and yet what our people should do, they should actually make the chocolate themselves and import it to the West. Because if they do that, then they'll get more money, instead of just being exploited to import the cocoa, which they don't earn much money for, and feed the craving of the Western nation, which most people are sweet tooth. I'm not a chocolate person. I don't eat chocolate much myself.
So what you're basically saying is that countries and people in Africa should become more self-reliant, should become more enterprising, like William Kamkwamba, who's built windmills. And that is why we are actually kind of, working with William Kamkwamba, because he started something called the Moving Windmills Academy, where he's inviting entrepreneurs, grassroots entrepreneurs from the world over, to work with them, to inspire them, to kind of empower them about how they can create grassroots innovations that could benefit the community. So great, Alima. And I'm very happy that you shared that insight. I think that's the only way going forward, where the people, claim ownership of being a democracy. Democracy means people power. And they exercise people power and practice self-reliance, practice entrepreneurship, practice ownership of responsibility. You know,
yes, that's right.
Alima, I told you I write books of real heroes like you who have gone through their struggles and yet, don't break down and persevere to break through. And I started writing these books in the year 2010. And a journalist asked me that, who will read stories of unsung ordinary heroes? Because everybody wants to read about celebrities. And I said, well, the celebrities and the movie stars don't inspire me. The real heroes,
and me, they don't. Yeah.
The ordinary heroes who are making an extraordinary difference in our world, they inspire me. So that is my inspiration to write the Karma Kari books. And we have a series now. It's a series of books. And just last year, a little before the lockdown, the pandemic lockdown started, I launched the Karma Kari Kid Power series, where we tell stories of kids like you when you were a teenager and you were being, harassed and violently kind of treated by your parents. There are kids in India also who go through the same kind of concerns. And yet these are kids from very underserved backgrounds who have gone through school in government schools and very, very ordinary schools and are doing something with their lives and also giving back in a big way to society. So Alima, what I want to know is, what inspired you to write your book? Which year did you get this book published?
2019, June 2019.
2019. So what inspired you and what gave you that insight that you should write this book? What inspired you and when did you start writing? How long did it take for you to complete your autobiography? Your book is titled My Autobiography, very simply. So I'm sure you had to do a lot of thinking and rethinking to really go into the, because it's very difficult to go to those dark places again, because you've seen a lot of violence, you've seen a lot of struggle, you've seen a lot of suffering. So I want to know the entire process of that entire reflection when you reflected, introspected all those spaces and visited them again. How did you feel and how long did it take you to write the book and what inspired you? Over to you.
It was definitely after the surgery, because as I said earlier on, living with chronic pain, I felt I was at a very low point in my life, and then suddenly I had anxiety. I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't leave my front door, and I would just be home in my pajamas, and I don't contact people. I was really sort of self-isolating, and it was really, really difficult because of the pain, because I regretted having the surgery. Before I had the surgery, I was a very active woman. I did tennis, I did my jogging, I did gym, I did running and all these things. And I just couldn't do them after my surgery. So, and as I said, one morning, I decided, I can't keep living my life like this. My kids were both at uni at the time. And I just decided that morning, and I just started writing, and I never looked back. I just started writing my book. And as I said to you earlier on, I wrote my book within 7 days. It was very hard to go into the dark places, as you said. And the dark places didn't come straight away. I added them after. The 7 days were the initial writing. And it took 7 weeks to edit, and I added a lot of stuff after. And it was the beginning of my healing. After all the childhood trauma from Sierra Leone and all the experience I've had, as a young teenager in Bournemouth as well with the racism. And it was the beginning of a healing for me. And I'm so grateful that I could write this book. And I've never looked back. I've met so many incredible people like yourself, of course, Jerry. And I've met so many amazing people across the world. And I've been connected with so many people. And I'm just looking for a breakthrough because I really would like my book to become a film. That's what I'm trying to get out there. I really want my film to become a blockbuster in the cinemas across the world. Because
and I'm sure
I really believe it's authentic.
I'm sure your son Hamza can start by making an animated film about you.
That's true. Yes, that's very, very true. Yes. Inshallah.
Yes.
Inshallah.
Inshallah,
Yes.
inshallah. Yes,
Inshallah.
I'm
Yes,
sure it will
that
happen.
would be nice. Yes.
So
That would be nice. That
what I'm
would
hearing,
be.
what I'm hearing you say, Alima, is that while you
Mm,
were in bed due to your
mm,
surgery, bearing all that excruciating pain, is
mm.
when the aha moment happened for you that you should share
Yes.
your pain and
Yes.
your story
Yes.
so that you could
Yes.
inspire others that if I
Yes.
can break through, you can too.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
nothing in life is something that
Mm,
can stop you and that can break you down completely. And the
very true.
insights came to you while lying in bed because you were indisposed and you were unable to move. And then, of
Yes.
course, once you decided to write, you had to go and visit all those places because you have to tell your story. And I'm sure that
Yes.
in the revisiting of all those dark places, as I call them, and I'm sure you understand why I call them dark places, because most
Mm,
of the time what we do is we kind of store this, because
yes.
unfortunately what the mind realizes and feels
Mm,
can never be
mm,
undone. So it gets
yes.
stored in crevices and corners
Yes.
of our brain where we don't want to
Yes.
revisit. But when you get
Mm,
into a recollection, when you get into reflective mode, you go there and you
mhm,
realize it was not so
yes.
bad because this made me
Mm,
stronger.
mm.
This
Yes.
made me
Yes.
tougher. This made me
Yes.
break
Mm,
through. And that is your
mm,
science of resilience, what is called
mm,
in psychological studies as adversity
mm,
quotient. In simple
mhm.
terms, it is the science of resilience, because all of us have a pain of grief, suffering,
Yes.
struggles,
Mm,
hardships, obstacles,
yes. Yeah.
hurdles, pain.
Yeah.
No one can escape it, right? You cannot
No.
escape grief, for example. Many
No.
people find it
No.
difficult to get over the death of a
Mm,
loved one. There is no way
yes.
you and I can escape it, because
No.
my mother
No.
could die today. In fact,
Mm,
my mother-in-law,
yes.
Malkeet Mini Grewal, passed away on the 2nd of July.
Yes. I'm
And
sorry. I saw
and
that on Facebook.
and everyone feels the grief, but
Mm,
the point is, in the next 15, 20 years, I will die too. Now, only
mm,
thing is that instead of feeling that grief and feeling bogged down, think
mm,
about how can you live the next 20 years with fond
mm,
memories of your mom or
mm,
your mom-in-law,
mm.
because all of us are on the
Yeah.
carousel of death.
Yes.
One day
Yeah.
we all have to
Yes.
step down, right? Because
Of course.
if we
Yes.
don't step down, the carousel will throw us off. So
Mm,
so
mm,
death is an inevitable part of
inevitable.
life. And in
Yes.
my Mojosh Inspirator self-help book, I've actually
Mm,
started the book because what
okay.
science of resilience shows you is that when you're
Mm,
aware of death, it
mm,
makes life more meaningful. It makes your
yes.
life more mindful. It teaches you the
Yes.
power of vulnerability. It teaches you to
Mhm,
take your time more seriously, because all of us
mm,
have finite time. So how do we
yes.
take our time seriously and invest it well rather than just waste it? Anyway, there's a whole lot of learning from the awareness
Mm,
of death.
yes.
And like I said, all of us have to die. It's the ultimate reality. It's the ultimate truth,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So, and I'm sure you had to go into all those crevices of your mind again. How did
yes.
you feel? Did you forgive your father for what he has done to you, or did you find it difficult? And I want you to be very candid and straightforward, because
Yeah.
one of the things that we as human beings find very difficult to do is to
Mm,
forgive people. What are your
mm,
thoughts and insights on this, when you had to go back to those dark places, especially
mm,
when you can feel somebody who should be your protector
mm.
becoming the perpetrator who's using violence against you, because moms and dads are supposed to protect you, not violate
Yes.
you. So how did you
That's
feel at
good.
that time?
Um, Fortunately, my dad wrote several letters. Bless, he's dead now. Bless his soul. He wrote lots of letters to me in England. The old airmail thing people used to write in those days.
Right.
And he really expressed his how sorry he was. And when I went on holiday, my first holiday, I went to Sierra Leone. He knew I was coming because I told him. We used to speak on the phone, and we met at a mutual ground and asked for forgiveness. And he cried and we just hugged. it was easy to forgive because with my natural character, I don't hold grudges on people. That is just my own finesse. That's just my own. I'm just blessed with that gift. I don't hold grudges. I say if people don't want to talk to me and for weeks or months, and if they phone me a few weeks later or a few months later, I will forgive. I don't hold grudges. I'm not jealous of anybody. So it was easy to forgive for the fact that he could, for me, what I respected about him, he accepted what he did was wrong. And he said he wasn't thinking, it wasn't his fault, he was influenced. That's fair enough. And I had to forgive because I really believe, if anyone is listening here at the moment, forgiving is not easy, but when you forgive the people that hurt you, you free yourself.
Absolutely. Failing which you're in your own prison of resentment and bitterness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You free yourself. Because if you
don't, I'm so happy you're sharing this life lesson with everybody.
Yeah, if you don't forgive the people that hurt you, what happens? You get eaten by the hatred, and your whole life you'll be tormented. You won't have any peace. And what is the point in giving the other person your life? Because that's what you're doing. You know, the person that hurt you, they've got away with it, and not everybody's gonna come back and say they're sorry. So if they come back and say they're sorry, you know, just forgive them. You don't have to be close with them anymore. You don't have to have a relationship with them if you choose not to. But the forgiving is the first step to healing. And if you don't have that healing in your life, you will never have peace. And without peace, you're doomed. You will never know happiness. You can have all the money in the world. If you don't forgive people,
and I completely agree with you.
Yeah, you have to have. You need to have peace, because that's what, you know, I tell people. I have so much peace because even if I die tomorrow, I know I'm going to die. I know that I'm not leaving this world with any grudge or hate for anybody, because I've forgiven all the people that have come back and apologized to me.
Very nice.
You know, some of them I would never get close to anymore, because obviously, you know, that's my choice. I can forgive you and not have you close. But him being my dad, I forgave him, and we had a relationship.
That's a choice.
Yes, that's very true. So it's really, really
absolutely,
important.
Alima, and that's something which I would like to kind of reiterate again with the audience, is that forgiving is important. Forgiving is important, but after forgiving, you can let go. Alima,
yes.
1 minute. I was saying after forgiving, you can let go too. You don't need to hold on to that relationship.
No, that's true. Yes, that's very, very true.
Alima, so, tell me. So, have you forgiven your spouse? Have you forgiven your spouse also?
I had to. Yes, it was really, really difficult. Obviously, yeah, but you have to. As I said, it's in my nature to forgive. For me, it's easy for me to forgive. For most people, it isn't. It doesn't come. It's not a second nature. But all you have to do is just, it's good to confront the people that have hurt you if you can. But please be mindful. You have to have a different mindset to confront people who have hurt you, because most of the time you might get worse. You might get the worst reaction from them. So for me, I could do it because I knew that my dad was going to show remorse. Even if he hadn't, it wouldn't have made any difference to me, because I had already done the forgiving in England before I flew to Freetown on holiday. So does that make sense? So we have to learn to forgive. It's really, really important. People say, oh, Alima, you always look so happy. You're always smiling. You know, that's because I have nothing.
That's the power of that's the power of forgiveness.
Yes, I don't hold any grudge. I don't hold any grudge for anybody. I don't envy anybody.
Absolutely,
I'm
Alima.
not jealous for. Yeah, and if my friends are happy and successful, I dance with them. We share the joy.
Absolutely.
You know, if I'm doing well,
yes, Alima, and that is because you have an abundance mindset, a win-win mindset. Yes. Which year did you meet your father again?
89. 89.
89. After how many years did you meet him?
That was 6 years later. 7 years. 7, 8, yeah, 7 or 8 years.
16
yeah.
years
7,
later.
8 years. Yeah, 7 years later. Yeah.
7 to 8 years. 7 to 8 years
Yeah.
later. And in those 7 to 8 years, did you still have some bitterness and resentment, which got completely cleared after you met? Yes.
Yes.
And after you forgave him in 1989, how did you feel?
I felt free because
you felt
I had
free.
so many I had a lot of list of other people that have hurt me during my childhood back in Sierra Leone, because I struggled at school. I was always at the bottom of the class. So a lot of people used to look down on me, said I'll never become anything. Nobody will ever marry me. I'll never have a husband. A lot of people looked down on me and called me a lot of different horrible names, like people did in those days. And I'm just so grateful that, we are at different times where these things are not acceptable anymore, because there's so many damaged adults like myself from my generation, I'm sure. But it's important. Nice. Forgiving is important. As I said, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it can be done.
Absolutely. And when you felt relieved and freed from that bitterness that you carried for those 7 to 8 years, you must have experienced a huge joy within you. Yes. And felt that freedom. And the lesson I want to share, the life lesson that I want to share with all the participants in the audience is that, like Alima said, most of us, many of us in the world, many of us in the 7.5 billion people in the world find it very difficult to forgive even our own parents, even our own siblings, even our own dear family members and closest friends, without realizing that when we don't forgive people, we are not doing anything to them. It's not hurting them at all. It's only hurting us, because we carry that prison, that entire cage of resentment, bitterness, and self-pitying within us, where we end up making ourselves feel like victims. So forgiveness is very powerful. It's very important to forgive. But before forgiving people, you also need to confront, not them, because when you confront them, there will be a reaction. Confront the reality of the situation. What really happened? That changes the response. You confront I'm not confronting Alima. I'm confronting the situation where Alima hurt me. So then the reaction, the response changes. And only when people feel repentant and are ready to atone, only then do you forgive. Because if you just forgive them just like that, they will hurt you in a bigger, worse way later, right? So there is a process of forgiveness. And like Alima said, you can forgive them once and give them a second chance. You can forgive them twice and give them a third chance. But there might come a time when you need to cut the umbilical cord and just let go and let be. And yet you forgive because you don't want to carry that resentment, bitterness, hatred to your grave. Because if you don't forgive, you will never be able to be grateful, be content, or be happy. So thank you for that great life lesson, Alima. And to conclude, may I request you to read a couple of paragraphs from your book, and please show the audience your book. Please buy this for all the people who are watching us on Facebook Live. Please go and buy Alima's book, My Autobiography, Alima Jalloh-North from Sierra Leone, who's now based in the UK. The book is available on Amazon and at all leading bookstores. It's a bestseller. My Autobiography, a very simple title. It's the life story of Alima Jalloh-North. Alima, over to you. Please read us the paragraphs that you hold most nearest and dearest to your heart.
Let me see. Hold on. I have got the page. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead and inspire us with insights and learning from your book.
Okay. I wanted to read this. This is from it's one of my favorite quotes It's from Dorothy Law Knowlton. It says, if a child lives with criticism, he learns to blame. If a child lives with aggression, she learns to fight. If a child is made fun of, he learns to be shy. If a child lives in fear, she learns to be timid. If a child lives in shame, he learns to feel guilty. But if a child lives with tolerance, she learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns to be confident. If a child lives with praise, she learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, she learns to trust. If a child and his belongings receive respect, he will respect and value others. If a child lives with approval, she learns to like herself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in the world.
Very nice. I'm very happy that you read that. That is from Children Learn What They Live by Dorothy Law Nolte. So over to you again, Alima. Thank you for sharing that poem with us. And any other paragraph that you want to read, which is your own writing about your story?
Not my story. Let me see. Okay.
Yes. So don't feel shy. Please hit us with your insights, hit us with your learning, inspire us with your life story and your journey of life.
Yeah. I would like to say, it's been such a blessing to know that we were the first generation in my family to be educated. I find that is such a privilege. I thank God for having that privilege that my brother and I were able to be the first generation to be educated and to have such a solid foundation at an early age with our grandmother who devoted her life to bring us up, which has helped me to become the woman I am today. My grandmother, bless her soul, she's really an inspiring lady. She allowed me to just be the child I was, confident at a time where little girls were supposed to be timid, their voices were not heard. I really am grateful that my grandmother embraced my personality and didn't listen to what people in the neighborhood were saying. She said that she wanted to be the last submissive generation and just allowed me to be myself. And I'm really grateful for that. It's because of her I've become the woman I am today, resilient, and I've been able to just achieve all these things in my life. I'm really grateful.
Very nice. And I think that what we also learn from your life story and the lessons that you shared with us, the life leadership and learning to learn lessons, that it is very important to develop the attitude of gratitude, because while so many things can go wrong with you in your life, so much violence you have faced, Alima, and yet you're so very grateful to all that you have, to all the friends that you have in your life, to all the positivity that you have in your life. And I think it is with that gratitude that you found contentment, you found happiness. There is clear research to show this, done by several think tanks, that the attitude of gratitude leads to contentment, and that in turn leads to happiness. And for all our people who are in the audience, that is the poem that Alima Jalloh-North just recited, which she's also included in a book. It's by from the book Children Learn What They Live by Dorothy Law Nolte. If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with friendliness, they learn the world is a nice place in which to live. So I think all of us as parents, as grown-ups, as teachers, have that responsibility to walk the talk, to lead ourselves so that children can be inspired by our lives. So thank you so much, Alima, for taking the time to be with us today. We have learned a lot from you, and thank you for those great life leadership and learning to learn lessons. And
thank you, Jerry.
Thank you to all our participants who joined us on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining in and listening in to Alima's life story. Please do go and buy her book on Amazon. Alima,
Okay.
we would love to include you in the Mojosh Magnificent Seven, which is an inspirational oratory experience, which we are planning
Okay.
to take live from this year end onwards around the world
Okay.
for the
Oh, that
public,
would
for
be
the
great.
people. And we would love to have you as a part of that, where you can tell your story on stage and inspire people. So I will be in touch with you about that. But thank you so much for making the time. I have personally learned a lot from your life story,
Oh,
and
bless
I'm a
you.
big advocate and I
I
wouldn't say
know.
a teacher, but a big promoter to help people
Yeah.
to understand that they need to forgive, they need to practice
Yes.
gratitude in the right way, not just superficially to show it on social
Mm.
media, but truly
Yeah.
inherently feel it.
Yes.
And because then they free themselves and
Yes.
they experience
Yeah.
real happiness. So thank you,
Mm.
Alima, for sharing that and
Thank you.
making
Thank
the
you, Jerry,
learning
and thank
real.
you for everyone that's been watching. Thank you so much. Have a
Yes, and
wonderful stay. Namaste.
namaste
Namaste.
and salam
Oh,
and
Jerry, I
pleasure.
forgot. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you my favorite Indian actor, Amitabh Bachchan.
Okay, he's your favorite actor, not
He's
such
my
a not.
favorite. He's tall and handsome, even at his old age.
Okay,
Yeah.
but he's not a favorite of mine because he's an absolutely spineless worm. Doesn't have a
Oh,
spine, doesn't have the courage to take a stand. And I'll say this on record that I'm not a fan of him. And he should, uh, I would rather, you know, inspire people, because all your good looks and your fame and your riches don't matter if you don't
true,
take a
I know.
stand for what is right and to right
Mm.
wrongs. And Amitabh Bachchan never takes a stand because he's an absolutely spineless fellow. Thank you so much, Ali.
I don't know much about his personal life. I just like his film.
I know, I
Sholay
know,
is my
I know,
favorite.
but
I like
I
Sholay.
had to clarify it for you and for the audience. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Namaste,
See you.
Jerry.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Have a great
Thank you.
evening. See you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.